Flexing ain't discreet about it. Extra, extra read about it. Say you wanna beef about it. We gon' come and see about it. Flexing ain't discreet about it. Extra, extra read about it. Say you wanna beef about it. Find out nothing sweet about it. Flexing ain't discreet about it. Extra, extra read about it.
Yes, indeed. B.Woods on the microphone platform. B.Woods, we here. It's the podcast, and I got the mayor of the Yay area. This man right here, he's been working the voice of late nights from LA to the Bay. He's been killing the game, has his own platform too, The Lady and the Voice, him and his queen, killing in the relationship game. And of course, he's been out here representing the West Coast and just doing amazing things, not just in radio, just for the community in general. My guy, Armand.
What up, B? What up, B? Man, that was a dope intro, bro. Like I gotta save that. So when I'm out doing my thing, I'm gonna play that one.
Yeah.
Man, what's up with you, man?
Man, it's so good to hear your voice. We recently got in contact.
Yes.
And I was talking to you on the phone, and it was just so many dope stories that you were kind of telling me, and so many memories that we have, because we go back, and your story is just amazing. So I had to have you on the podcast just because you're doing phenomenal things, not only in your platform as far as your podcast, but just your history as far as radio. And it's just been it's dope. It's dope. So I had to talk about it. I had to get you up on here. You know that.
Thank you, brother. And you know, it's an honor. And I gotta say, man, again, you are doing amazing things, man. I'm so proud of you. And when I say proud, a lot of people think, you know, we're around the same, you know, we're in the same generation. But you know, brothers, we got to start saying we're proud of each other. We got to start complimenting each other. You know, I always said, brother, you've had that same smile since I met you, man. You know, that same energy, that same just like I care attitude, you know. And that's what I appreciate so much, because I gotta say, man, ain't too many folks out there still smiling, man. A lot of folks, they refuse to smile, they want to frown, but you keep it going. And you making me over here turning burgundy, man. You got me over here.
There we go. making dark skinned brothers blush.
Exactly.
But I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I think that is powerful too, just because we go through so many trials and tribulations in life. And that just as men, a lot of times we kind of like hold in our emotions, and we just can't say, you know, yeah, that's my guy. I love my brother, and different things like that. I think it's just so important that we give each other flowers, as cliche as that may seem, but just be able to appreciate each other. Because a lot of times, especially we tend to do that when times are terrible. So we have to, and I think that's kind of a trauma response. So I think we need to do that when times are good. Like, okay, cool. Let's smile when we can smile, and keep that energy going. And the energy that I want to keep going is to tell your story of your journey. First of all, man, the voice,
man. And you know what?
Yeah.
When people call me that, because I never called myself that. People have labeled me that for years, and I said to myself, okay, you got this voice. What you gonna do with it? Are you going to be that guy who just talks? Or are you going to show people what to do with their voice? And are you going to give the voiceless a chance to showcase their voice? And ever since I took on that attitude, things have been skyrocketing, man. My career, everything. And LA was a huge part of that. Working at the Beat was a huge part of that, because I didn't know the power that I have now. I didn't know. And it took some trials and tribulations for me to be able to identify my superpower.
And going back to your superpower, how did you even get started? Because you like, when did you realize, okay, one, you did have a voice, but just even going before that, like before radio, what were you doing, and how did you even get into the game?
Man, so let me tell you, as a Bay Area, Oakland native, Summer Jam was my thing. You know, going to Summer Jam. Even as a young tadpole, we used to go to Summer Jam.
Right.
And, you know, the 90s, that's where Summer Jam was birthed. And, you know, went to my first Summer Jam. And I remember seeing Renell, Sway, Davey D, all of them on stage introducing artists. And I'm like, oh man, that's cool. That's really cool. Because I was already, a little pop. I was popping and breakdancing and doing all those things. And as a teenager, I'm like, no, I like what they're doing. That's really cool. And this is before my voice even changed. So I'm like, I want to do that. So I used to go home and I used to practice introducing artists on stage. And I used to have my little boom box, or remember we used to record radio mixes?
Right.
So there was a very popular DJ out here. His name was Michael Erickson, God rest his soul.
Okay.
And I used to record. Me and my homeboys used to always record all his mixes. And I used to practice doing what I didn't know back then, but I was practicing radio. But I was practicing introducing artists so I can one day be on stage at Summer Jam and introduce my favorite artists.
That's crazy. And
it's
so
crazy, right?
Yeah, so you're introducing people in the crib. How did some of that go? Like give me a little sample of
I'll give you an example, because back in the day, Hammer was that guy,
Right.
So I used to practice introducing Hammer, and I used to pretend there was like 5,000, 10,000 people, waiting for Hammer to come on stage, man. Mm-hmm. I used to come out, hey, what's up, y'all? It's Armand, and we about to get it down. So you guys get ready. Summer Jam, are you guys ready? And I used to go, all right, everybody get on your feet and let's bring to the stage Oakland's own MC Hammer. And I used to even try to do a little,
there we go. That's what it is, That's dope. That's dope. Right. And I love the crowd sound too, because you got we all, when you do those imaginary things, you always imagine it with a big ass crowd.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It's never like two people. It got to be 5,000 plus. Exactly.
So how do you make the transition from the visualization of that in your house to actually turning it into practical, concrete things?
Dude, let me tell you.
First thing.
I didn't even realize it. Back then, I was practicing, and I didn't even know that I was speaking it into existence. Mm-hmm. I was manifesting my dreams to where they were not only dreams, they became goals to now is reality. So I was telling everybody, I want to do radio. Yeah, I want to do radio. I kept putting it out there. And then fast forward to my younger adult years. Did some things, worked a couple of retail stores here and there. And then I said, I want to do radio. This is what I want to do. So I moved to San Diego first. Okay. I was a young tadpole, 24, didn't know any better. Moved to San Diego because they said San Diego is a smaller market, but it's the back door to LA. So I'm like, cool. So I moved to San Diego, and there was a station, Z90, Jammin' Z90. Okay.
Yeah.
And there was actually another station called Magic 102, 102.3, I believe. And I was like, all right, Z90 is more my speed because I'm hip hop R&B, And mind you, my voice has already changed. My voice changed when I was 17 years old. Okay. So everybody used to mock me and say, hey, you need to be doing radio. So I'm like, cool. Again, fast forward to San Diego. There was a gentleman there who used to host a radio show, Eddie Love. And allegedly, Eddie Love was going to leave. Apparently, he was going to leave. So I knew a DJ there who was saying, hey, this guy's about to leave. You'll be dope to host a slow jam show when he bounces. Well, guy never left. Eddie Love never left. And I was like, I'm out. I got to leave because there's nothing for me here. And I ended up moving to Los Angeles by myself, knew no one. Ended up moving to Koreatown.
Okay.
And a roach infested.
And that's usually the first spot people go to. They either go to like Wilshire, Koreatown, or North Hollywood somewhere, because the apartments are cheap and there's no parking, but you ain't got no friends, so it don't matter.
Don't even matter, man.
Exactly.
Don't even matter. So I was off of Mariposa and Wilshire.
Oh, I know
remember because and I said, you know what? I'm gonna get me a radio job. I don't care how it's gonna work. I don't know how it's gonna work, but I'm gonna do it. So again, putting it out there. It just so happens that Wilshire at the time was full of radio stations. The beat the beat had just moved from Yucca to Wilshire. So I ended up KLSX, and it was more of a white alternative talk station. Okay, so I ended up just walking into the building. I said, I just walked into the building, and I was in the elevator, and someone asked me, say, "Hey, do you know where this office is?" And I'm like, "No, I'm sorry, I do not." But in the elevator was 4 individuals. When I opened my mouth to smoke, everybody was like, "Whoa, you're definitely going to the radio station. I can tell. Yeah, you must work at the station." I was like, "No, I don't. Would like to." When I said that, there was a sister in the elevator. She says, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Well, my name is so-and-so. Here's my card. Let's schedule an interview."
Wow.
Yeah, this is how it happened. She was in promotions. So I'm like, cool. And I had a little raggedy resume, didn't really have anything on there, but my retail experience. We sat, we talked. She goes, "Hey, we need some people, we need phone screeners." Remember phone screeners back in the day?
Yeah.
So I got hired on as a phone screener. And the dope thing about it is I got hired on to phone screen for Tom Likas and Howard Stern when Howard used to come to LA.
No, so Howard was actually physically in the studio?
He would come because there were sister station. It was a KLSX back in the day was a sister station. It was owned by CBS. Infinity, remember Infinity Radio?
Yeah.
It was owned by the same. So when Howard would come into town, he would come there to tape.
Got you. And so you would talk to Howard and the whole 9 yards? And
No, it was, let me tell you, it was unreal. It was unreal. So I didn't get to see him as much as I wanted to, but Tom Likas saw him all the time.
Right.
Heidi and Fly, all the main talk personalities back in the day who worked for KLSX, which is now AMP Radio, I believe. They were all doing their thing, man. And I was right there.
And so you're on the elevator, you get the phone call.
Yeah, to come in.
So now you're in Koreatown, and so now you get a job doing phone screening. What's that experience like? So are you jumping for joy at this point, and are you just what's the energy like once you actually say you're in the door?
Dude, I loved it, and it gets deep. It gets very deep, because from there I ended up phone screening and working the board for someone else. So they used to do a lot of nighttime shows. So I ended up board opping and engineering and doing some phone screening for this guy called Ed Powers.
Wait, and so how do you even learn how to do all that stuff, right?
Everybody taught me. So I wanted to learn. I was a sponge. Okay. When I say I lived at the station, I lived at the station. Gotcha. I was a sponge, and I wanted to learn everything. And I was around cats who just wanted to teach me because closed mouths don't get fed. So I went in there and I just started learning how to phone screen, some board opping, learning a lot about just the different parts of radio.
And when you talk to other jocks, and I kind of want to come back to the Howard Stern stuff.
Yeah.
Did they see something in you, and how do you get your personality? And if you did have any conversations with Howard Stern, what was that like? Man,
let me tell you. So when I first met Howard, he gave me some advice. He was like, "Look, you got a fantastic effing voice, and you definitely need to be on the air. What are you doing? Why are you just phone screening?" And I said, I just started. And I want to do more, and I need to know, how did you get started? I ended up interviewing him, which is funny. And then Tom Likas gave me a lot of information, a lot.
Wait. So let's go back because I don't want to run past that. So we're talking about the biggest person in the game, right?
Yes.
And so you're talking about Stern. He's like the $1 billion person. Most people copy him, whatever. And so he tells you, he says, "Hey, why are you still doing this?"
Yes.
You respond, "I'm just in the game." What does he say from there? Like, I want to get to that.
Dude, when I'm telling you, when I tell you that I ended up interviewing him, it was funny because I was asking him like, hey, so how did you get started? You know, and what was some of your favorite interviews? And then his co-host, remember his co-host, his sister, Robin.
Robin,
me and her used to sit and chop it up all the time. And every time they would come from New York, I would see them, and it was like I've known them for a very long time. And it was cool because I was wet behind my ears. I didn't know much, but I wasn't afraid of anybody. I wasn't intimidated by their celebrity.
Right.
Because hey, I'm from Oakland,
Hey.
LA, hey, exactly. So I never took on the Hollywood, oh, that's that person or that. I talked to everybody like I knew them.
Right.
Yeah.
And then at that point, so you're a sponge, you're learning everything, and then the transition to the next stage, how does that go?
Man, let me tell you. So there was a brother who ended up working there. His name was Lavelle.
I remember Lavelle. That's the homie.
So Lavelle, we ended up crossing paths, meeting. He was like, hey, man, exchange names or whatever. And I found out he worked at the Beat. Now, mind you, there was 2 stations I wanted to work at when I came to LA. KJLH and the Beat. KJLH, I remember I used to always listen to them in the morning. Cliff Winston?
Cliff Winston, yeah.
I used to listen to them in the morning. And Dolores Thompson in the afternoon. And I was just a fan. But I really, really wanted to work for a station that fit my voice. At the time was KJLH. Adult, Stevie Wonder, that whole vibe.
Right.
And me and Lavelle, we got to talk, and he says, well, hey, why don't you come over to the Beat? I'm like, cool, how can I get in? And I remember he gave me Erica's number, Erica Dumas.
Yeah, shout out to Erica. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Erica
I ended up
works in promotions at the Beat. So
yes.
Yeah.
So I ended up, giving my information to her. And I remember I was working some temp jobs in between my radio stuff. And I remember sitting at the desk and checking my voicemail back in the day. Remember answer machines? So I ended up checking my answer machine. Yeah, exactly.
I know your answer machine was probably crazy because you had that voice. So I know you did about 7-8 takes.
Dude, my voice was I remember it was Jodeci in the background.
Oh Lord. I'm glad I didn't hear it.
Yeah, it was like, hey, what's up, man? You reached Armand's voicemail. Please give me, if I don't get back to you in enough time, I do apologize. Something crazy like that. But
then you hear Casey in the background. Ooh,
exactly. Yeah. So when I heard her message, I froze because I was like, it's time. This it meant more than anything else because I remember, now mind you, when I was at KLSX, I did an air check from KGLH. And I kept following up with Cliff Winston. And Cliff Winston picked up the phone. He said, hey, man, how you doing? I said, this is Armand. I sent you my air check. What did you think? He's like, hey, brother, I don't know if you'll be a good fit here at KGLH. I'm like, okay. As he's saying this, my heart is just sinking. He said, man, you got too much hip hop. You need to go over to the Beat, man. But he was saying it like I felt it was like a punch. I didn't feel embraced. I didn't feel like he was, and again, God rest his soul. But that was the motivation I needed.
Right.
So the timing was actually perfect. So when he did that, I was like, okay, I'll go over to the Beat. And I didn't even turn in an air check. It was just a resume. And that's when Erica called me. And she said, hey, we need some people. So I went in as a jock assistant first. So it was funny because it was for Lala.
Oh, wow.
I applied for it was for Lala. And it was another brother. I mean, it was another cat who was applying for the same job. So I'm like, okay, we're going to go in here, and it got a little competitive. And then they ended up eliminating the position. So I had nothing to fall back on except one thing. Oh, I forgot I knew how to board op.
Right.
So man, the story gets real crazy after this. We're in the studio. It was about, I say about 10 o'clock at night. PJ's on. And Tawala was supposed to come on. And Tawala, for some reason, couldn't make it in. Or he was running late. So PJ comes into the studio B. And he was like, hey, any one of y'all know how to run the board? I was like, yeah, I do. Matter of fact, I swear it was you.
wait, time out.
I think it was you I was in there with.
Really?
And we ended up going into the main studio, running the board, didn't even have it on auto. I was playing all the commercials manually.
That is crazy.
Because
I remember I didn't really know how to run the board, but there was this girl, Trey Renee. She was teaching me earlier how to kind of do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So in there pressing buttons instead of putting it on auto. So I ended up, running the show, whatever have you. The next day, get a phone call from Nancy, the general manager.
Right. I remember Nancy. Yeah.
Erica was like, hey, you got to go into the general manager's office. I was like, oh. So she called me in the office. She goes, hey, first of all, what were you doing in the studio at that time? I was like, oh.
It's hilarious.
Were you on the clock? Were you getting paid? You know how that is, labor laws and all that stuff. I'm like, no, ma'am. But I do apologize, She goes, well, I want to thank you for coming in. And she goes, please don't do that again. Erica then calls me. She goes, hey, I'm gonna hire you as a board op. I was like, cool. So now I'm a board op.
Yeah.
I'm coming in.
So now you're a board op, right?
Yeah.
Coming in. And then when you were working with Lala, so how long was that period?
It wasn't, I would say not even a day, because the position was eliminated. So I was just floating around.
And did you have any conversations with her? Like, what was that like?
With Lala?
Yeah.
Oh, that came afterwards.
Okay, cool. So now, all right, so we fast forward. So now you're a board op. So what happens?
Now I'm a board op. Yeah, I'm a board op. And I ended up being a board op for a couple of folks. I used to come in and board op like overnight shows.
Okay.
So all the overnight shows that were ran on CD, like Walt Baby Love Show, the Russ Parr Show, all these shows, I was like board op / producing, because I had to make sure they were running well overnight. So I was doing the overnight shifts. So it was crazy on the weekends, some on the weekdays. Mind you, I was still working at KLSX too. I was working both.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I was working for the LA Kings because CBS was broadcasting the LA Kings. And I was doing the beat at the same time. So I was all radio all the time.
You were already doing your thing. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And then the opportunity came about when Steve Harvey was obviously Steve at the time. I ended up being the assistant for the Angels. So I ended up working with Nautica, Dominique, and Shirley. I was handling all their affairs.
And how does that even happen? Who comes to you and you're just grinding, and what happens?
Erica.
Erica, I get her ass on here. Erica.
I was Erica's go-to.
The light-skinned angel.
Dude, if it wasn't for Erica, I probably wouldn't be in a lot of positions I was in.
Okay.
Yeah, I was working my butt off. I was at that station. Mind you, I would do overnights and then stay for the Steve Harvey show.
Okay.
And then helping out Hollywood Henderson. I was taking drops. I was literally helping produce the whole thing, for the most part. And just helping out with drops like from Aaliyah to Luther Vandross to Mary J. Blige. I used to go down and bring up Mariah Carey from the elevator. It was amazing. And the Steve Harvey show, every day there was celebrities.
big people. Every person in Hollywood would come out. And this was before the internet, so it was just like people really valued their moments on the air because it really had a monetary gain to being on the show. Any conversations that you remember that kind of stood out to you when you were bringing those type of people up, and like Aaliyah or anybody?
Dude, I'm gonna tell you about the Aaliyah situation. That was amazing because, I'm looking at this skinny girl, little girl, like literally, and we're doing the drops, say, okay, try this, try it this way. All you got to do is say, hey, this is Aaliyah, and I'm hanging out with the Steve Harvey Morning Show. And, I remember it like it was yesterday, Luther Vandross. Luther Vandross was huge because I had him talk to my mom, because my mom was a huge Luther Vandross fan. So I said, hey, Luther, can you do me a favor? Can you call my mom right quick? And he called her and sang to her.
Your mom loses her mind.
Oh my God, man. But it was
wait, what did your mom say? Like the phone rings? Like what happened?
She didn't believe me. I was like, Mom, I want you to speak to somebody, and she didn't believe me, and I wish, we had the social media back then, because of course I would have videotaped it, but things are moving fast,
Right.
But seeing all of those celebrities up close and personal, and not at the time, I was not a radio personality. I was just in the building.
Right.
To see all those celebrities and have all those stories, from Destiny's Child to Jay-Z to, it's just, Diddy coming to the station in the height of the East Coast, West Coast, after that situation was happening. And it was one of those things where you're like, wow, stories to tell your kids and your grandkids, but I'm happy, even though I wasn't even on the air yet. I haven't even hit the airwaves yet.
Right.
But those experiences I remember the most.
Right.
Because I was just there to help.
Yeah.
Giving some input on things, gave him some ideas on some things, and helping Steve with his record label back in the day. Listening to all the new artists that are out now who used to send us CDs back in the day. It's crazy, man. It's crazy, and to be a part of that, it's phenomenal.
No doubt. And so now you're in that stage to where you're producing, you're port-opping, you're getting no sleep. Obviously, you're going back and forth for the next 25 other stations. And now, then what happens next?
Dude, I'm gonna tell you a quick story, because you mentioned Lala.
Make it a long story. Go ahead.
I'm gonna tell you the story about Lala.
Okay.
So I remember us being in the studio, and people don't know this. She actually has a song with Corrupt.
No kidding.
Rap. Yep. She has a rap joint with Corrupt, and I remember her recording her part. I was recording it as she was saying her part. Crazy, right?
Crazy. I didn't know a lot of rap like that. I knew she was in Atlanta.
It was around the time
radio
Angie
stuff.
Martinez. Remember that song with Angie Martinez, Ladies Night. It was around that time. Okay. Her and Angie were real tight.
Right.
They probably still are, but it was around that time.
That's crazy.
And I remember she needed to record her part because she was going to go on this record with Corrupt. And we were in Studio B recording it. Crazy.
That's insane, because like her trajectory is just, I was always hustling. So to kind of see her in every way, and her relationship was just, with you. Also, you would tell me stories like her, like, because I know Kim Kardashian would come to the radio. You told me that would be at the radio station. I didn't even realize it, because I didn't know, nobody knew she was Kim Kardashian back then.
Nobody at the time.
So tell that part of it.
Dude, she used to come to the station all the time, because Lala had a good group of friends that are now who they are, and you got to think about this. Miguel used to come to the station all the time. Miguel would come during my shift. Him and his, unfortunately, they're getting a divorce now, but him and his, wife at the time, or actually girlfriend at the time, used to come to the station. Now, I don't know if you remember, there was that computer that was behind where we be on air, and there was that computer that was right there. Everybody sit there and go online, go on Black Planet.
I probably still got an account.
MySpace,
right?
You know, that was the MySpace Black Planet computer.
Right.
You know, so whomever would come in, you know, and think about it, Lala at the time, you know, was the hottest on-air personality outside of Steve. You know, her show was literally right after Steve. So every morning you would just see an influx of just people coming to see her, coming to see Steve, you know. And then later in the afternoon, who was on in the afternoon? There was so many, we had so many people, you know, and after that afternoon drive was a hot situation, you know. So seeing all these radio personalities, and it was a revolving door, you know, because you had Big Les on. Remember Big Les had her shift?
Yeah.
You know, Ananda Lewis.
I remember Ananda too, yeah.
Spinderella.
That's right.
Spinderella. Keisha Monk.
I remember Keisha.
Yeah.
Keisha, yeah.
Because that's when Lala ended up going to NTV. So they were trying to fill her spot.
Right.
Because she ended up doing the B-side with Erica Beachy.
That's right.
And matter of fact, it ended up being her and Erica Beachy, and then after she left, it ended up being Spinderella. And then K-Slide.
Yeah, you taking me back. Taking me back.
But seeing all these celebrities come through to be interviewed, you know, on these wonderful shows with these wonderful personalities, I was taking notes. This is what you're supposed to do. You know, this is how you're supposed to grind. You know, don't worry about the celebrities. You know, you're going to get yours. So you got to be prepared for your opportunity.
Right.
You know, because I was turning in air check after air check after air check after air check, you know, from Steve Hegwood to Scorpio to Tom.
So how long was the time frame at this point before you make that jump to on air?
Dude, I started at the beat 90, the end of, I want to say late 90s, early 2000s.
Okay.
Because I was working both jobs, so I'm hustling. I didn't get on air until 2003, 4. Okay. So that whole window, just a sponge.
And how does that happen? So now you've gotten all years and years of experience. You're board opting, you're producing, you're seeing the celebrities come in, you're seeing artists, you're seeing the jocks, and you're seeing the transitions. Now, so what happens when you get the phone call?
Dude, got the phone call from Tom Calicochi, and he was like, "Hey, what's your schedule look like today?" Like, I'm open, you know, come down, I want to talk to you. Went into the office, and he says, "Hey, we want to offer you a on-air position here at the Beat. We want you to start the night beat." And I'm like, really? Like, I was stunned. And he slid me over the contract. And mind you, union rates. And I've seen money, but I haven't seen money quite like that. I was like, mind you, you know, Roach Infested apartment,
right?
Grinding my butt off, making 12, maybe 12. Okay, I was making 12 to 15 at KLSX, and I was making $17 an hour at the Beat because I had got bumped up to the board situation.
Right.
And was getting, you know, just working a bunch of hours, so it seemed cool, but I had to work a bunch of hours to do it. And he slid me over that contract. And man, let me tell you something. You would have thought I won the lottery. Dude, I swear to goodness, it was a trip. It was a trip, man. And I got in my car, and I remember driving up La Brea, and I just went to tears.
Wow.
Because I finally got my opportunity.
You did it.
Finally, man.
You made it happen.
And, you know, shout out to everybody who assisted me, who helped me, who let me sit around on their shift, who taught me. Tawala, that's my guy. Let me tell you, because he was doing overnights. And he was like, man, anytime you want to train, come on in. PJ Butter, anytime you want to train, come on in. You know, Hollywood Henderson taught me how to do production. Just, hey, this is what you need to do, you know. Just so many people, man. Just open Erica.
That's so dope, because it's just like, because I always think of the beat like a fraternity, you know. It's one of those where, you know, I didn't go to college, but I always say I went to the University of the Beat. And
there you go.
For Steve Harvey, Lala, Julio, and everybody else. And so it's like, it was like the hip hop X-Men school for radio.
That's right.
And so now you're on the air. What's that experience like?
Dude, I remember my first night. And A1 was the shift prior to me. And I went in nervous as all hell. And I remember A1 was like, you about to get on? I was like, yeah. He's like, all right, man, good luck, and left. I was like,
and that feeling is such a crazy feeling, because what happens is when you're in the room by yourself, it's almost like, the only way I can explain it is like, if you're on you're coasting, you're on a plane and you're the pilot, and now you have to fly the plane all by yourself, and you have to land it without flying into a wall. So you're in the studio by yourself. What happens next?
Dude, it's time to crack the mic. And we all know that feeling when you crack the mic. Everything goes silent. All you have is that music in your ears. And you have your outro time and you have your intro time. And you got to transition, and it has to be smooth. Now I'm about to introduce myself to all of Los Angeles. And you know what was cool? You know, where we were on the 12th floor. So you can see all of LA, you know, for the most part, you know, and that can be a little intimidating. But I was taught, don't worry about that. Always pretend you're talking to one person. And that's what I did. I cracked that mic, you know. Welcome to the Night Beat on 100.3 The Beat. My name is Armand, and I'm gonna take you on a musical journey. So I hope you're ready. Let's get it in. Boom, hit that button, boom, let it fly. And I almost passed out.
And that's it right there. And
that was it right there.
It sounds so natural. And so at this point, you're playing all R&B at this point, right?
All slow jams.
Okay.
All slow jams, man.
Okay.
And think about it. PJ Butter hosted the Night Beat. Kevin Nash. Kevin Slow Jam James. So I'm like, I'm coming behind all these legends in the game, you know? Theo. You know, even though he did afternoons, but the voice. So speaking of, people kept calling thinking I was Theo. And I'm like, no. I take it as a compliment.
Yeah, because he's the biggest guy in the game. And we still look, every podcast I do, Theo comes up. We still ain't find him though. And so so now you're in the studio, you're doing the Night Beat, you're doing the R&B thing, and so you're full time.
Full time, brother. I started off, because mind you, I started off part-time. I was doing the Night Beat part-time, and then they moved me into full-time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how does life in LA change for you at this point? So now you're not in the roach infested apartment in Koreatown, you're a radio personality. And at this point, to give context, that's like being a Laker at this point, right?
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
My dumb behind moves to Calabasas.
You are ahead of the curve, brother.
I'm moving. I live over there by T and Tamara now, you know. So I'm moving to Calabasas to get me a little condo. A little townhouse over in Calabasas, man. And then ended up, it didn't really hit until I moved to Studio City.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna tell you something funny. When I was doing part-time, I still had to have some income. You know, it's part-time. And when I moved to Studio City, people started to recognize me, start to recognize my voice. So, Studio City at the time was just a mecca for entertainment.
Right.
Meaning everybody living there, so it was cool. Like members of B2K lived there, just a Sierra. It was just a bunch of, Kanye,
Right.
Common. So it was just, it was entertainment living. So I was able to break bread with those folks.
And so you're living this Hollywood life, and it's taking it to the next level. So what happens at the beat? How does the transition happen from the beat, and what's like one of your favorite experiences just being a full-time personality?
Dude, it was that, having a platform. So now everybody's coming to me. Everybody wants to get interviewed. All the, record labels, A&R. Hey, we need to get this person on an interview on your show. Da, da, da. So now all these folks that I used to help come up the stairs to the Steve Harvey show, now I got people wanting to talk to me.
And they let you do interviews during the night beat.
100%.
Okay.
And I'm gonna tell you the biggest one. Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle called the station literally right after he got back from Africa. Dude, I didn't even believe it. I called Scorp. I was like, not Scorp, Tom. I was like, hey, I just interviewed Dave Chappelle.
So what happens? Like, give me details. So Dave hits the hotline. What happens?
Yep. His manager, someone on his team, was like, hey, I got Dave Chappelle wanting to call and answer your question. Because I had a topic.
Okay, so what do you remember the question, and do you remember the conversation?
Yes, 100%. I wish I could play it because I still got it. Okay. The topic was, what do you do when you just want to explode? Like you're in an argument and you just want to explode, and you just, you're in an argument. How do you handle it? Something like that.
Right.
And he called, I started talking to him about it. He was like, man, you just got to walk it off, man. Don't even, just walk off. Just walk off, my brother. And we had a long conversation about it, actually. Okay. And I'm sitting there, I can't believe I'm talking to Dave Chappelle about a topic that I had on the night beat.
Right.
It was crazy, man. It was crazy.
And yeah, that's crazy because he was in that transition phase. And so,
yes. And
so you're kind of one of the first people that he kind of reaches out to on a public level.
100%.
Okay. And so you're getting responses and reactions. Your show is lit.
Yep.
And now you out here winning. And so what happens, and how long is your time at the beat, and when do you actually leave the beat?
Oh my gosh. So here comes Kathy Hughes.
Okay. Hammer.
God bless her. She comes in, and I remember, so when I first met Kathy, that hallway for the where all the studios are, that hallway. Right. George, and shout out to George, the producer.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that hallway right there, when I first met Kathy Hughes, I met her because she came in to see Lala. And, her and Lala were like this. And she was like, what are you doing at, tonight? I was like, nothing. She goes, okay, we're going to paint this hallway. I'm painting the hallway with Kathy Hughes and Lala.
I remember that night.
See?
That was a transition night. So that wasn't a good night for the station.
No.
When you were painting the hallway, I was in the kitchen with Gerald and the security, because they had a security team that was actually there.
Yep.
And everybody was and that point, the stage, I wouldn't say it was out of control, but it was a fun place. It was like Disneyland. Yes. And she brought this thing to where she was like, okay, we need some discipline. It was like some military thing.
Yes.
I'm a promotions. I'm walking in, I'm seeing everybody just painting, some weight on the river, like painting. And these are big major personalities. And I was like, what in the hell is going on? So I just duck out. And I remember Julio was saying, I ain't painting no goddamn hallway. Like, you gotta be. I remember Julio saying that. So now you're painting the hallway. What's going on?
Dude, at that time, again, me not knowing any better, I'm just like, okay, cool. I get to paint the hallways with Kathy Hughes, and, I got, other radio personalities, and, so again, painting. And of course, shortly after I get, my shot or whatever, but shortly after that, here comes V103 or V100. Yeah, because remember, Steve is gone. We went through morning show after morning show after morning show after morning show after Steve left.
Right.
So I believe we went through quite a few morning shows actually, from Ed and the brothers from MTV.
Yeah.
And Ed and Dre, John Sally. Shout out to John Sally too. Yeah, John Sally, Tom Joyner, even Cliff Winston at one time ended up coming over to the beat, Right. And then nothing worked, nothing stick. The numbers were not good, We took a big hit when Steve left. There was even a parade outside, people honking, not a parade, a protest, wanting Steve to come back.
Yeah. Were you there when what was the time when everybody wore all black when he left, and it was, do you remember?
Yeah, I do. I remember looking outside the window of the studio and seeing all those protesters on Wilshire. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Don't know the details, but I know after that the station took a huge hit.
Okay.
And here comes V100. And I remember, it was funny because I remember I was at home washing my car, and I get a call from Kevin. I can't remember his name. He had that magazine, the Buzz, the radio Buzz magazine.
Yeah.
One of the trades. And Kevin Fleming called me. He was, "Hey brother, how you doing?" I'm good. He's like, "Man, I'm gonna have to let you go."
Just like that.
Just like that. And B100 came along.
So going back to that, so what's going through your mind right now? So you get the phone call, you moved to, you were in Calabasas, you in Hollywood, you got the contract, you're winning, you're interviewing celebrities. Now you get this phone call. What's going through your mind?
Dude, I was crushed because I didn't know what to do. And one of the biggest mistakes I made, even though I was taking notes, being a sponge, I didn't apply it. I was kind of putting my eggs all in the beat basket. I didn't diversify my portfolio. So once the beat left, once I got let go, that was it. I didn't properly put myself in other places. I depended so much on that one basket. When that basket left, my name went with it.
Right.
So it was difficult, and then you got bills to pay, you got all these things you got to do. And I took some side jobs, ended up going into commercial real estate. A company hired me to handle their entertainment clients. So it was cool because I was still able to deal with entertainment. Actually, dang near met more celebrities doing that than I was at the beat. It was crazy.
Right.
But, it was just different. I wasn't in love with it at all. I loved it. The money was good, but I wasn't in love with it. So that call, when Kevin called me, it was devastating.
Right.
And I ended up doing podcasts. It was, at the time, it was on demand radio, 2008. I came up with this on demand radio where I was producing radio shows and putting it on people's websites for businesses. So I created a little business, Down to Earth Productions, and it was cool. It was cool, but just wasn't my cup of tea.
Right.
And then just said, I'm done. I'm done with radio. I'm done. And LA at that time just became more of a hindrance. I said, I got to get out of here. I got to go back home. So 18 years living in LA, getting married, having kids, doing all these little side ventures, roller coaster of emotions. I said, I'm done. I gotta get out of here. So I came back home to the Bay. And I never thought about radio after. I was like, I'm done. So 2015 came back to the Bay. It's like, okay, you know, no big deal. I'm gonna still do my little commercial real estate, you know, and just left it at that. And then I get a phone call. This is gonna kill you. This is how God works, B.
Okay.
I get a phone call from someone I went to school with, and I've known her since the 7th grade. She calls me, she goes, hey, you still trying to do radio? Like, yeah, I guess, yeah. What's up? She goes, well, I got a friend who works for KBLX. I'm like, oh, cool. She goes, I don't know what he does, but I think he does something. He's big time. I'm like, all right, cool. So I go in. She goes, well, send me your resume. I'll connect you guys. So I ended up sending my resume over, you know, not thinking nothing about it. I'm like, whatever.
Right.
Been here, done that. Been there, done that.
Right.
And I sent it over to him, and he calls me in for an interview. Mind you, still don't know what he does. And he says, hey, how you doing? My name is so-and-so, and I'm promotions director. I said, promotions?
Like what I need you.
First of all, I'm a grown ass man.
Right. You want you to pop up a tent and sit in front of T-Mobile.
I'm a grown ass man, brother. And mind you, it is hilarious how this all went down. And I said, you know what? God is telling me something. Because that ego that I had in Los Angeles, I can't have that ego here. And if I really want this, and if I really want this to happen the way it's supposed to happen, and not worry about the fame and all that stuff, I got to humble myself. So guess what, B? I took the job. Promotions. Mind you, I got $100,000 Mercedes. I got a Tahoe, about a $50,000 Tahoe, fully lit, because I still have a job, a very well-paying job.
Right, you're doing the real estate.
I'm doing my thing. But it wasn't my passion. It just wasn't.
It makes a huge difference.
So I'm like, huge difference. So I said, okay. So I'm in there, right? And I'm popping tents. For real. Popping tents.
Humbly.
For other radio personalities who at the time I felt, you know, I could do that. I could do better.
And did they know your history, or was just anonymous? They didn't recognize you.
It was low key anonymous, and there were some people who didn't even believe me. I said, okay. I used to purposely park because it was a parking garage. I used to purposely park my cars away from everybody so nobody saw that I had these type of vehicles. Because I didn't want nobody in my business. Mind you, I'm working with kids. Like young adults, college kids.
Right. Probably trying to give you instructions.
Sure did. Until, so I ended up talking to Corn. Corn, you got to interview this dude. Please tell me Corn is on your list.
Corn is on the list.
Okay, good. So I ended up, Corn's, for some reason I reached out to Corn, told him what was going on or whatever, just to check in on him. Because, you know, we tap in every once and again. He was like, hey, you know, Cheesecake worked there. She's the program director at KBLX. I'm like, Cheesecake, you know, Stacy Cunningham. He was like, yeah. So I'm like, man, this is crazy. Hold on. Hold up. Stacy used to be in promotions at the Beat.
Right. She was my manager too.
Crazy. Now she's PD at KBLX.
Wow.
We're in a promotions meeting. She sees me. And she's telling everybody, do you know what this guy, do you know? And everybody's looking at like, huh? Cast out the net.
And everybody probably losing their mind because they're like, okay, they didn't realize that they were working with the king.
They had no idea, brother. And, you know, I took a serious piece of humble pie. And that was probably, I was making $12.50 an hour, brother. That wasn't even enough to fill up the gas tank at the time.
Right.
You know? But I did it because I needed to prove not only to myself, but to the God that I want this bad. I want to get back on the air.
And it really goes to show how important your passion is. Dude, right? Because if you're not living in that space of passion, like you said, you had the money, you had the $100,000 car,
right?
But you were fulfilled to the point to where you took a job that only paid $12. So that's a mental space, and that's a mental shift. That shows the importance of that. You really, really have to enjoy what you do. Right. And so at this point, Stacey's letting the station know that you are, this full-time jock. The cat's out the bag, and you were on the beat, a bigger market, number 2 market. And so what happens next?
So I was able to produce some side shows, almost the same journey. Okay. And I ended up Sterling James, which is a legendary personality out here. She needed some help with a show. So I'm like, hey, I'll help you. I used to produce Street Science with Dominique DePrima back at the Beat. Man, dude, I produced so many shows at the Beat. I'm not even telling you half.
Like, you gotta tell me, this is the podcast. You gotta let me know all the shows you produced.
Dude, Street Science. I was doing Street Science, gospel tracks, the Michael Basin show before he was live at the Beat. I was doing Russ Parr. There was one more. Oh my gosh. Obviously helping doing the Steve Harvey stuff. The Angels. I had hella jobs at the Beat.
And you were Jamaican. You were doing them all.
I was doing the most because I was in love with it.
Yeah.
I was doing the dating game with the Steve Harvey show. I was the chaperone. So I was out in a limousine every Wednesday chaperoning the dates that they would choose.
That's right. I remember that. I didn't realize that. Yeah.
Dude,
They would take listeners on dates. Steve would set up these dates.
Yes.
And it would be almost like a reality show to where an audio reality show, and kind of see how the dates go. And you would actually be the person there just kind of making sure that things were on the up and up,
Right.
And keeping it sexy there. And so now you're producing the show in the Bay. Mm-hmm. Stacey got you to plug. Where does it go from there?
So Sterling is, showing me the ropes or whatever. And Sterling says, hey, I'm going on vacation. I'm like, okay, cool. This is around the holidays. She's like, I got to go on vacation. So I don't know who she's going to have come in and, do my show, but this is what you got to do, Okay, cool. I got you, Stacey comes into the studio. She goes, and Sterling goes, hey, do you know who's going to be, filling in for me when I'm gone on vacation? Stacey looks at me and goes, yeah, Armand. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say the N-word. I was like, what?
Go ahead, though. You know what I'm saying? We keep it real here. So, yeah.
I was like, what? And I just froze. And then I gave Stacey a hug. I said, thank you. Thank you. So December 8th, 2015, I was back on.
There you go.
I only did promotions for 4 months. That was it. And got back on the radio, and it was the best feeling, man.
Were you full-time at this point?
Nope, part-time, doing weekends. But everybody's like, who is this voice on the radio? My popularity started to just doing weekends.
Right.
And then we got a new program director, Elroy Smith.
Okay.
And he calls me, we get to know each other. And then I go into his office, and mind you, the Quiet Storm, had no jock. They were just playing music. No jock. Mm. And I used to always ask Stacey, hey, when you gonna let me do my thing? She goes, hold on. So yes, you are my Quiet Storm guy. So I ended up taking on one of the most popular shows in the Bay Area, The Quiet Storm. And man, let me tell you, from there it just blew up. And I said to myself, this time I'm not going to put my eggs in one basket. I'm going to diversify my portfolio. So I started my nonprofit in 2016. I started just branding myself, period. I ended up buying The Quiet Storm with Armand, became a business, LLC. Again, my nonprofit all tied up, where I was going out in the community, making sure our young Black men were prepared for their opportunity. I was out there, so it was about the necktie, but it wasn't about the necktie. So when I was in commercial real estate, I met a lot of folks who were looking really good, knew how to network, knew how to, give a proper elevator pitch. And I was in rooms where I was the only Black person. And I was like, nah, nah, I gotta show my young brothers this. Right. So, it starts with the necktie, but it doesn't end with the necktie. Matter of fact, you don't even have to wear a tie, just have the tie mentality.
Yeah. And say that one more time.
Man, you don't have to wear a necktie, you just gotta have the tie mentality. What does it stand for? Respect yourself, respect your brothers, and respect women. Being a man is one thing, being a gentleman is everything. So I just took that LA networking mentality and I applied it within the nonprofit, teaching brothers how to work a room. But it starts with your mental health. You got to have confidence in yourself first. And that's why the tie is so important. But don't let it fool you. It's not about the tie.
Right.
Whether you're wearing a hoodie, a t-shirt, just know you got to be prepared for your opportunity, because you never know who you're talking to.
Right. And so, and what got you to this mentality, this space to really be able to merge all these worlds? It was just the experience, or did you have a conversation with somebody? What happened?
Yeah. So I had to go back to my roots. And remember, I said those three names early on from KMEL: Sway, Renell, Davey D. Sway was humble to this day. So I could text Sway right now. He'll text right back. Humble dude, same uniform he's had since the 90s, never changes. He can walk around Oakland by himself, get all the respect. I'm like, that, I like that. Renell, her personality, she made people smile. Her energy was just awesome. She just, everybody felt comfortable around Renell. So I'm like, cool, I like that. Then Davey did his community work. His community work, because he originated the street soldier kind of moniker. It actually was street soldiers out at KMEL. We used to listen to street soldiers. Dominique put it as street science.
Okay.
So street soldiers, because most of the radio personalities from the beat came from KMEL.
Okay.
Like 90% of them.
Yeah, this is a history lesson, because I didn't know that. And the thing that's so interesting too, not to cut you off, because when you talk about Sway putting all the eggs, I remember having that same having a conversation with him at the beat. This is when I'm young and the beat is popping. He's like, yo, because we would always think Sway was super, super preachy. We'd go to the studio, like, Uncle Sway, here you go again, talking about don't put your eggs in one basket. I'm like, I'm trying to turn up. And he was like, yo, bro, like, you got to have the other things going on. And I didn't realize what that meant. Then he got let go from the beat.
Yep. The wake up show.
And then a few months later, he was on MTV, like, What's Up, World? And then it made sense to me. So, yeah.
Boom. And I'm going to say this to you, man. I thought about all of that when I started The Quiet Storm. I said, I'm not going to, first of all, I love KVLX, but you're not going to make money off of my name. So that's when I incorporated The Quiet Storm with Armand. And I said, I got to do it, And then I'm like, okay, people keep calling me The Voice. And mind you, I'm not going to go against the monster we see on TV. So I'm going to leave that alone. But if I'm going to claim it, I'm going to claim it,
Right.
And people just started hiring me to MC. And that's where you and I definitely have diversified our portfolio because we got to use our voices, man.
Right.
You know? So I ended up becoming a professional MC. And I MC things in the past, man, but this was different. Now I'm MCing galas and huge events and concerts. I'm like, oh, this is dope. But that goes back to me introducing celebrities on the Summer Jam stage.
Mm-hmm. And it goes back to you all the way from the beginning, the hammer, you doing it in your room.
Dude, so I'm gonna tell you how life works. Last year, ask me where I spent my Thanksgiving.
Hammer's house?
Yes.
What? So you and Hammer are cool?
Yes, man. Ended up having Thanksgiving at MC Hammer's house, man.
That's so crazy because people don't realize like Hammer's like the
Hammer,
40, Too Short, like these are like the towns. It's
met them all.
Crazy.
Met them all, man.
And how does that relationship build with you and Hammer?
Yo, we ended up talking. So I'm gonna tell you a funny story. Actually, the wife, Hammer, is her son's godfather. So when we got connected, I got connected with it. Was just all came together, man. And we ended up, his daughter ended up, she makes candles, and she had this big coming out party for her candles. Actually, it was an anniversary party for her candle line, and she brought us on to host it, the Lady and the Voice. So of course Hammer comes in support of his daughter, and you know, we got to talking, and then we ended up talking about tech, because you know Hammer's really into tech. You know, so we ended up having a whole conversation about NFTs.
Actually, I didn't know that. I didn't know Hammer was into the tech game.
Yeah, he was one of the first to be on Twitter. Him and Rev Run were the forces behind Twitter.
That's huge. I didn't realize that.
He's huge in the tech industry. So we ended up going to Thanksgiving over at their house, and we talk nothing but NFTs the whole time, and other things, you know. And he's giving me game. Like, I'm getting game from a man who once had over 30 million. So I'm soaking it all. He says, you got to start your media company. You got to, the Lady and the Voice is a big thing. You got to push that. You got to da-da-da. And it's not about how many followers you have. It's about the impact you have. So don't worry about the numbers. The numbers will come. Don't worry about the money. The money will come. Go out there and make people happy and watch.
And that's crazy. So now, and that's such a great, you know, transition point. So now you're getting the game from all these spaces. You're learning about what it takes to really be a brand in this business. And so how long are you on the air in the Bay? So, and where does it go? So
that's the cool part about this story. Okay. So 2019, prior to that, you know, from 2015 to 2019, I'm killing the game. I'm getting 16 shares. I still hold the record. Highest shares in KBLX's history. Nobody has ever done it. You know, Quiet Storm is everywhere. The salespeople there wasn't selling the show. I was hustling myself. And I knew sales from the beat because I used to talk to a lot of Peter and all those people who used to work at sales taught me the game. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to cut out the middleman. I'm going to sell myself. They're not selling my show, so I'm going to sell my show and myself. So they wanted Armand to come host their events and show up here, show up there. And I'm like, cool, this is my rate. This is my appearance fee. Da-da-da-da. So I was doing it all myself.
Damn.
And the salespeople would come up to, and this is how I found out they were using my likeness. And I was only getting a small percentage. One of my clients came up to me and said, hey, we got a contract to do some commercials at the Beat. And I mean, not at the Beat, at KBLX. And, you know, we're supposed to get on your Facebook Live. I'm like, oh, is that right? They sold my Facebook Live package in a package. And they were like, yeah.
They didn't let you know about it.
Didn't even let me know about it. But it was an event that I was already emceeing. And I was like, wow, okay. So, and mind you, I was the first one to utilize the Facebook Live platform at KBLX. Nobody else was doing it. Right. So I'm like, okay, that's fine, whatever. And then I saw how much they paid for that package. I ended up with zilch out of it. I'm like, oh, okay. Didn't say nothing, just left it alone. But I started hustling on that motivated me to continue to hustle.
Right.
You know, and before I knew it, man, it's just, I was too busy. All tied up, was winning awards, national awards. I was going to Florida, and I was on TV, and you know, my nonprofit is just killing it. So I became extremely busy, extremely, to where radio was actually secondary. And then I get the call, and I already knew what was going to happen. I said it to some other radio personalities. I said, they're probably going to let me go, and they're probably going to replace me with this person. Sure enough, that's exactly what happened. But this time I was prepared.
You were prepared. And that's the thing that's so interesting too, because it was just like, almost like you kind of spoken into existence. Did you, the passion of radio, did it diminish and did you just have a certain love for the other spaces that you were in? And did you say mentally in your mind, like, okay, this part of my life is here? Did that subconsciously happen for you?
Initially, I didn't understand. And then I was like, oh, this is supposed to happen. Again, I wanted to be more than a voice on the radio. I wanted to be a voice in the community. And my popularity became more significant as my nonprofit started to grow. And I was, so that same person, remember Kevin Fleming? Remember I said that, right?
Right.
And remember I told you he had this, it's called the Radio Buzz. That was his trade magazine. And remember R&R, remember all those trade magazines, all that back in the day? Because of my nonprofit, I ended up being in all of them as a radio person. Kevin's was one of them. So the same guy that fired me for the beat, he ended up writing a story about me.
Wow.
All comes back full circle.
Full circle,
brother.
And at this point, so now you buzz it. You know, your name is hot in the streets. You're doing positive things. I want to kind of make the transition. So how did you? Because it's the lady. You got the T-shirt, lady, and the voice, and I see it all on my stories. Every platform I have, I see you and your queen doing your thing. I'm gonna be on MySpace, Black Planet, Twitter, Snapchat, and you and your queen are like, you know what I mean? Like y'all just y'all getting it in. How did you and your wife meet? How did that happen?
So again, being busy, being everywhere. Remember, radio was secondary. I was everywhere, bro. Like everywhere. And I had to be, because I wanted to be a household name. You know, there's a legendary radio personality out here, Chewy Gomez, Renelle, you know, Sway. I wanted to be there with these guys. So I'm like, okay, how can I do that? I got to be everywhere. I have to be, you know, I got to be in all the hottest spots. I got to be taking pictures with all the celebrities and things like that. So I got to do that. I got to market myself. And I need help because I can't do this by myself.
Right.
And I was unorganized. I wasn't returning emails. I was missing out on money. I was leaving money on the table because I was so unorganized.
Right.
And I ended up meeting this wonderful woman who had an entertainment background, who just was, man, everything I needed and then some. Didn't even start off as a relationship in that sense, romantic wise, because thank God LA prepared me for beautiful women and doing business with beautiful women.
Right.
And so I was immune to it. And I was going through some personal things at the time. So I was like, really, I'm cool. Let's just handle this business. And she ended up managing me because I had a calendar, bro. I ended up having a full-on calendar. Everybody wanted Armand, which I was super blessed about, you know.
Right.
And I needed help. I didn't have a bio. I didn't have a one sheet. I didn't have none of that. She came in because she worked with celebrities, from Gladys Knight to Eddie Murphy to the Jacksons, Charlie Murphy. She was with Charlie Murphy up until he passed. You know, Ashanti, Ja Rule. She was, you know, so she was used to the entertainment industry. I was like, cool. Now I don't have to explain that to you, you know, but I had to show a little bit about the radio game. So when I got let go, she was with me um since 2017. That's when we first, started business. So when I got let go from KBLX, which was funny because again, I knew it was gonna happen.
Right.
Okay. They can see I'm not putting in that. I'm putting in the effort, but there was some other stuff going on.
Right.
And plus I knew the transition was gonna happen to the station, period. Which now, they play rap. So it's not even the same station.
Right.
So once I got let go, the floodgates opened up. But there was something missing. I still wanted to do radio. But now this podcast thing is kicking in. Everybody's doing podcasts. So I'm like, okay, and social media is cracking. Everybody's doing Facebook Lives and Instagram Lives, So I was like, hey, I want to do something. And we're trying to figure out who should be my co-host, And we went through a list of, people we thought was going to be good with me. And I said, how about you? And she's like, you tripping, because she's never done radio before. I'm like, no. We talk all the time. We have great conversation. So let's go ahead and make it happen. Matter of fact, the show's going to be called The Lady and the Voice. And she was like, I like that. I said, all right, cool. So we started off on Facebook Live, just kind of talking about our relationship, and we noticed.
Wait, time out. So let's go back a little bit. So are you guys together? Are you romantic?
Oh, yeah. So we ended up being together, but it started off as business.
Okay, so tell me about that story. Let's personalize it a little bit. Very general stuff happening, and I know I want to get me a bit.
You want the detail?
Right? Okay. Yeah, I want to see what's going on in your life because I think it humanizes you. Because a lot of times we tell these stories and we say from a very general space. So I kind of want to humanize what's going on. So you leave the radio station, you meet this beautiful woman, and now. What's the conversation like? How do you know that this person is for you outside of the business on the human level?
So let me back all the way up there. Okay, we met 2017.
Right.
And we figured out that I needed a manager. So she ended up managing me based on her skill set and her expertise in project managing and entertainment.
Right.
So we rolling tough. Okay. Then I get a phone call from Black Enterprise Magazine. And I get an email. And they have nominated me as one of the 100 most influential Black men for 2017 in America. I'm like, whoa.
That's huge.
Like, this is dope, like, because of my nonprofit. And they send me a list of questions that I have to answer, interview questions, almost an interview style, because it's going to go in their magazine. And I'm like, yo, I need help. I'm like, So obviously she's managing me. And I say, hey, is there any way you can help me out? So I send her the questions and she starts interviewing me, asking me those questions. And I'm just, talking. And she's taking what I'm saying and she's putting it in a nice little format to where it's a story behind it. She's dope. She has a degree in English and puts it all together so it's grammatically correct and all this stuff. And I'm like, cool. She sends it back to me, everything she put together. Dude, I'm reading this email. And I started like saying to myself, damn, like I've never had anybody describe me like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like it made me feel whole. It made me feel like it was emotional because it was like somebody writing a book about you and you going back and reading the book and you're like, damn.
Right.
And she added in some of the things she felt. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And at that point I fell in love over an email.
And so talk about the transition from business to romance. Like, what's the conversation like? What does that? I'm getting in your business. I'm trying to take it there.
Hey, brother. Hey, you know what? There was no conversation.
There had to be a conversation at some point.
I take that back. It was because of the conversation, but we never said it. We never said, we never said, I never asked. I said, hey, you want to be my girl? It just transitioned into that. It almost, it was familiar. It was like I've known her for, I always say we met in the 80s because that's what it felt like.
Right.
You know, and we ended up just, we were our chemistry, we complimented each other. You heard a soulmate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nah, she's my twin flame. It's a big difference. Me and you, we're soulmates, brother. We're always going to be connected.
Absolutely.
But to have a twin flame, that's on a whole nother level.
Right. And that's beautiful because your partnership, you can feel the energy, you can feel the energy between you. And how long have you guys been together?
I always say from the first time I laid eyes on her, we've been together.
Oh, there we go. That's that quiet storm talk right there.
Right. So that's how I chalk it up. For the first time I laid eyes on her, that was the first time. We were meant to be. So there it is. And I always give that date.
And you guys are married right now also.
No.
No.
That's another beautiful thing about it.
Okay.
But she has the promise ring. Understand that.
Okay.
And it's going to happen. Understand that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, we've invested a lot into each other, and she's my life. You know, she's everything I need and want, and we're dependent on each other by choice. You know, she was married for 24 years. I was married for 18.
And that was my question, because I didn't get that point. So you were married prior to this?
Yes.
And so because you mentioned you were in LA and you were married, and you have children also, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you have 3 kids, right?
Yes.
And so through that transition, and I mean, you don't have to answer this, what happened with the last marriage, and how come that didn't work?
It didn't work because I wasn't man enough to be in a relationship like that. I wasn't mature enough to handle what that was bringing, you know. I was too wet behind the ears. The LA life took over. It's very important to be with someone who understands the industry, you know, and also someone who understands you, all of you, flaws and all. And again, it's very important to communicate as well. And, you know, when you have kids, when there's kids involved, make sure that they know that it's not all peaches and roses.
Right.
You know, so I just wasn't mature enough to handle it. It was too much.
And yeah, because you had a lot on your plate, you know, even at the beat. And 3 kids is and a relationship is a lot. And
a lot.
And so at this point, you guys decide to not have this, you guys, you know, transition from each other. And so you meet the queen of your life. What's her relationship with your children right now? Like, what's that?
I'm gonna tell you what's funny. Just yesterday, last night, I asked the twins. They're 11 years old. And I said, hey, how would you guys feel about if me and Miss Eileen got married? They were like, oh my God, yes, that'd be awesome. Blah, 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 blah. They love her, and she treats them like they're her own, you know. And she has 2 older boys, 21 and 26.
Okay.
And I love them to death, man. They, you know, the oldest is in LA, living his life because he's in the entertainment industry. So I'm like, you know, oh, you in LA, that's my old stomping grounds. Here's what you need to do. Da, 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 da. But at the end of the day, man, I just want him to love it, enjoy it. LA has a lot to offer when your head is on straight.
Yeah, and it's so dope because you really, I mean, so going back from like you're in the living room, you know, announcing and for the hammer, you're like, and you become all these things that you've thought about.
Right.
You transition into a family, you learn so many life lessons, and now you graduated to the point to where like you're like an OG now. You have everything, you have the knowledge, you have the business savvy, you have a beautiful relationship, and you went through all of this. And a lot of times, even with the trials and tribulations, it can take people different directions. This could have been a negative. Somebody could have lost their job and said, okay, I don't want to mess with this and be miserable, or be in a marriage and say, hey, this didn't work, and be miserable. But you are, your foundation is so strong. And I think that's dope. That's admirable. And another thing I like about, what you guys do on Lady of the Voice, the podcast, you guys really, you're graduating to the relationships, the relationship dynamic of Black relationships and what it takes to facilitate them. And I think it's so dope. What are some of the topics that you guys talk about on your podcast, and what are your favorite topics to talk about as far as relationships from what you've learned?
Well, I'm gonna tell you this, it's about all aspects of relationships. So whether it's business, romantic, family, friendships, situationships, we all got to figure it out. So our kids can figure it out. Our kids shouldn't have to figure it out like we figured it out. We should be able to give them the blueprint. We should be able to show them what a healthy relationship looks like. And not only how to treat the opposite sex, but how to treat each other. So we talk about it, and we have some real conversations. And a lot of times what we let you guys see is happening in real time. And we solve it right there in front of you. And that's when you see the genuine, the authentic reactions. Because a lot of times she has no idea what I'm going to say. But I'll wait until we get on live or on the podcast to say something, because there has to be some result.
Right.
And, it's funny because we didn't realize how much it affects people until we actually go out and we're making appearances somewhere, and people are coming up to us wanting to take pictures, but they're talking to her and like, you go girl. And then so she's always been behind the scenes. Now she's in the front. And we call ourselves an empower couple, because we like to empower other couples and other individuals with the knowledge and our experience and the things we've learned, so they can go out and do their thing, And for us, we want to share our platform. So every guest we bring on, they have to give back to the community. We don't just bring on anybody. No, everyone runs a business that gives back to the community. So we interview other empowered couples that are a reflection of us.
Nice.
And that's what I did at KBLX. I don't care who you are. If you're a celebrity, singer, R&B, rapper, if you're not giving back, you can't come on my show.
Right.
And I made them, So it carried on to the Lady in the Voice. And that's what we are. She's truly a lady. And we both use our voices to uplift our community. And that's the foundation. And everything is all ties together. Nothing's like off the wall. Like, what do you guys do? Why do you own a circus? Well, no, everything ties together.
Right. And that's dope. That's super dope. And we, like I said, you definitely feel that energy, and I like, and it's the empowerment of making sure that the people that you have on is a reflection of you, and it's that constant synergy that's popping off, and so it's dope as hell. And so what's I mean, you got so many things going on, man. So plug everything that you got going on. It's probably gonna take another 2 hours, but what's next for Armand, and what do we see happening with the Lady of the Voice?
So for me, myself, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Just staying in the community. Radio will always be there. Podcasts will always be there. But our communities, they're on the verge, because with gentrification and all these things that are happening, we're getting pushed out.
Right.
So just making sure our communities are intact, and our communities still show us in the community, but it starts with the youth. So with that being said, All Tied Up has become an academy. To now we partnered with some giants. Cisco Systems is one of our partners, where we're teaching kids and their parents cybersecurity for free. And they get certified by Cisco. So that's a huge partnership.
That's dope.
And we also have podcasts. So we're building podcast studios in schools. So we're teaching kids podcasts. So all that knowledge, radio, because podcast, radio, same thing.
Right, right.
So all that knowledge that I've gotten for free, I'm also blessing. And my beautiful, beautiful queen, she's taken all her knowledge in regards to project management, and we're showing these kids it for free. So now all tied up is an academy. So the Lady and the Voice is a reflection of that. So we're actually starting a Bay Area college tour. Our first stop, November 8th, will be at San Francisco State. Okay. We're going to talk to college students that look like us, because they're going through some things.
Right.
And it has nothing to do with school. It's relationships.
And we say, relationships is human relationships, romantic relationships.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And we have kids dropping out because relationships gone bad. So we want to give them the keys, the tools, the resources to how to nurture these relationships and what to do in certain situations, So we're partnering up with one of my, again, comes full circle. One of the cats I went to high school with out here, his brother is now one of the biggest radio personalities out here. He works for KML. He's going to join us, my man G Biz. He's going to come join us. And we're going to talk to these kids at San Francisco State, and from there, San Jose State. And we're just going to keep going, and doing this college tour. As far as the Lady and the Voice on the other side, we're now being hired as a couple to come MC events. So we're doing a huge one coming up for the American Cancer Society for their big Discovery Gala, which is over 800 people, $15,000 a table. And they brought both of us on to MC their gala. So these are just one of the things, man. We've done so much. We partnered with Discovery Plus to talk about issues with the Black man and how we're being profiled and some of the myths about Black men.
Absolutely.
We've done so many wonderful things. And, shout out to the poetess. Again, it comes full circle.
Yeah, shout out to the poetess.
When we come out to LA, she blesses us with her studio, Morris Media Studios. And we do the Lady and the Voice live from her studio. We interview some folks out in LA, from Flex to Shawnee's to, gosh, David Arnold before he passed. Yeah. So, it all comes full circle. And I say that because treat people right, because you never know when they're going to cross your path again. Absolutely. And they remember that. Remember that, man.
Yeah.
So things come full circle. So treat people right.
And it is because, your spirit and your energy, even our relationship, it's just that it's still bonded because, we treat each other a certain way. And we made sure that even though we were in these chaotic spaces and these fun spaces, it was always a level of respect there as Black men, like, okay, cool, that's my guy. And, we gotta, keep a certain level of respect. And I think that's always dope. And Armand, my guy, it's just, it's good to not just hear your story, but to not just hear, not to say your voice. It's just good to see you. And I'm just glad that you not only living, you thriving, brother.
And same with you, brother. Yeah. Same with you. And I love that you're sharing your platform with folks who are passionate about this radio thing, and you're even expanding it out to people who work for Power 106. I saw a Romeo interview. I was like, that's dope. That's dope.
Yeah.
But I love that you're bringing all this together and giving us a chance to share our stories, because, hey, man, a lot of these folks haven't told these stories in years.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And really what really kind of got me to was our conversation. We had a conversation on the phone, and you were just going back, like telling these stories about different things. And a lot of it people just don't know these things, and it just kind of stays with them. And it's just like, okay. And the beat and the stories of even from everybody, from you, me, everybody, is just, it's still there. And they just can't. I don't think it should just be discussions among us personally. I think it's the things that the life lessons that we learn is so important, and the stories that we got are so important that there's value there. And I was just like, okay, I got to do this. I got to.
And you know what's funny? Like when I go to the Beat alumni page, right? You won't see not one picture of me, not one. And I believe that's for a reason. And even the phone that I had at that time that has all these pictures of me with all these different celebrities, I can't even get into that phone. Don't know the passcode, nothing, man. But I do believe it all happened for a reason. Because it's time for you to create new memories.
Right.
And how are you going to, what are those memories going to look like? You know, and what's important about that time at the Beat is the real people and the real stories will resurface. Like yourself, Poetess. Me and Kevin Slow Jam and James actually got a project coming together.
No kidding. Okay.
Yes,
that's it.
It's called the Slow Jam Experience.
Okay. Two of y'all. I know it's gonna be sexy. I know it's gonna. As soon as you listen, it's gonna smell like incense. As soon as you press play,
dude, and you know, it's gonna be awesome, man. So Corn, shout out to Corn Dog. All the real is coming to the surface. And all the things that wasn't supposed to come to the surface will stay down at the bottom because they're supposed to be there. You know.
Right.
So again, man, Chuck, shout out to Chuck.
Shout out to my guy Chuck. Yeah.
He's killing it. He's killing it.
He's killing it out here. And shout out to Chuck. And deserves
I can't even get on his calendar.
He's out here making it happen and just doing it the right way. And it's just like it's so dope, you know, and it's such an inspiration. And it's almost like we're all kind of doing the same things in different games, which is super sick. And that's what I love.
Small world, man. And again, you know, shout out to Tawala, Dorsey, all the cats that just really, you know, were on that beat grind, you know, from Yucca all the way to Wilshire. You know, I was in the 2000s. I was part of that new beat era where you know, the 2000s was, you know, where me and Adimu couldn't even walk down the hall together because it was like, who's who? You know?
It was like y'all had a competition of who had the deepest voice. Had the deep voice conversations going on.
Right. But again, man, the Beat has if those halls could talk, man, oh my God. You know, from the time I was there, man, that whole 2000 movement, you know, was amazing. I'm so glad that I was a part of that, you know, to have those stories, to meet brothers like yourself, man. We all trying to grind together, you know, and just make it happen.
Absolutely. If you were to say your best memory at the Beat, what would you say it was? What was that?
Oh gosh. Whew. You know what, man? There's so many. That's the tough part. The one that probably stands out the most would have to be. Oh, that's tough too. Dude, I honestly, I have to go back to this. When I cracked that mic. When I cracked that mic and A1 says, all right, man, have a good one.
Right.
But I needed that.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want nobody to babysit me through that process.
Right.
Not that I needed it. I did. But I made sure, I'm going to be honest with you, and nothing against A1. That was, you know, A1, you had somewhere to be. But when Chuck got on the air, for the first time, I was there. And I made sure that he was good. I made sure I was like, Chuck, I got you, bro. Yeah. And to this day, he still, you know, mentions that.
Exactly.
But for me, I needed it to happen the way it happened.
Right.
You know, because I had to make sure that I was good, you know. So shout out to A1.
Yeah, shout out to A1, shout out to Chuck, shout out to everybody, and shout out to you, brother, because man,
shout out to you.
An inspiration. And I want to thank you so much for coming on, you know, B.Woods on the Mic platform, and just everybody support the lady and the voice, and of course you.
Man.
Yeah, it's a journey. It's going, and this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And you know we got to collab, right? So you got to get your lady on here. So
absolutely, I want to get my queen on here too. Yeah,
dude, we got, and that conversation. Trust me, what they have to deal with when it comes to us in this radio thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and your grind. Where I see you, and it is awesome. I love it what you're doing, and your lane is much respected.
Thank you.
We in my lane and your lane gotta come together so we can carpool.
Yeah.
So
yes. Yeah.
So we can get there faster, my guy.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know? So again, you got to come on the Lady and the Voice, and vice versa. We got to make this happen, man.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm with it. Yeah, we definitely. Yeah. And I'm not just saying that's just not radio talk. We gonna make that thing happen.
We gotta make it happen, man, because these kids, our kids need to see this.
Yeah.
You know, that there's no competition, there's no, and not that is even a thing, but they need to see collaboration is the best way and the fastest way to get you.
Absolutely.
Collaborate. You know, people don't know. Hey, Draymond and LeBron got a company together. You would think they were
right.
LeBron was at Draymond's wedding.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
And that's what it takes, you know, that, and that's why he's billionaire status, because
that's right. We're gonna work on his punch game, but hey.
Shout out to Jordan Poole.
Right. We gotta calm that down, you know. But what I'm saying is we gotta show these kids collaboration is the best key. Is, you know, and that's the way you do it, you know. Yeah. So the Lady in the Voice, you know, B.Woods on the mic.
Hey, let's do it. West, shout out to my guy. And make sure you guys check him out. Hit him with the socials real quick.
So it's a Lady in the Voice. Obviously a Lady in the Voice at Instagram, Lady in the Voice Facebook, Lady in the Voice TikTok. Yes, TikTok.
Yeah.
And then when you hit the Lady in the Voice, I automatically come up. You can hit up The Voice, THA or THE. I come right up until I get my cease and desist.
No doubt.
Hey, I'm not. It's not, yeah,
it's gonna be that type of show.
Yeah. But no, honestly, man, all social media. If you want to check out the website, theladyandthevoice.com. It's thevoice.com, and you know we're just gonna keep doing what we do.
Absolutely.
You know? And we love it, man. And you know it's for the kids. It's for the next generation. Absolutely. Because they need help. You know, especially out here in the Bay and Oakland, and I'm pretty sure in LA, they need help. They need some guidance, but they need to see it. This is a show me generation.
Absolutely, because there's so many different. There's a lot more information, but they need to get the right information. And my guy, right, you definitely got the right information. And my guy Armand, double salute.
Yes, sir. Right back at you, soldier. I can't wait to see you in person, man. Matter of fact, you know, this is the first time we've seen each other since early 2000.
That's crazy.
I have not seen you since the early 2000s, man.
It's crazy. That can't be the norm, and those conversations happen a lot more just because we're so used to not seeing each other. So now we have to get used to seeing each other.
That's right.
Not just online, but in person. So let's definitely make that happen.
We're gonna make that happen, man. I appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate you too, my guy Armand, Lady in the Voice. Let go.
Yes.